It's time for the RMAC Radio Show, featuring all the latest information from around the Rocky Mountain Athletic Conference. The RMAC is a proud member of NCAA Division II. Now, here's your host, Eric Danner.
Welcome back to the RMAC Radio Show. My name is Eric Danner. We're now talking men's basketball, and we only have 3 weeks left in the regular season in the Rocky Mountain Athletic Conference, and some big games were played this past weekend that could go a long way to determine who plays in the RMAC shootout in just a few weeks. New Mexico Highlands played Adams State on Friday. They beat them 90-81. Our Offensive Player of the Week, brought to you by Baden Basketballs, goes to Thomas Manzano of Highlands, the junior guard out of Brooklyn, New York, and the University of Wyoming. Scored 22 points in that one and then added 17 against Fort Lewis. We'll get to that in just a second here. Western New Mexico defeated Fort Lewis 93-88. Remember, we had Mark Coleman on last week, and the Mustangs had lost at Fort Lewis earlier in the season by 42 points. This time they win in overtime, and then Colorado Mines defeats Regis 96-45. Then on Saturday, Western New Mexico defeats Adams State, so the Mustangs now 11-6 in the RMAC. They are just a half game behind Fort Lewis for fourth place, and Colorado Mines defeats Metro State 65-48. Rather convincing win for the Ore Diggers. Both teams now 14-3, and they have split their head-to-head competition. So if they wind up in a tie, we're going to have to get out the abacus to figure out who is the actual regular season champion. The other big game being played Saturday night, New Mexico Highlands defeats Fort Lewis 82-64, and the Cowboys once again playing very good basketball this year. They are now 12-5 in the RMAC. They are 16-5 overall, and we're now joined on the RMAC hotline by the head coach of the Cowboys. His name is Joe Harge. Coach Harge, how's it going today?
Oh, things are good. How are you?
Doing well, Coach. Doing well. This was this is your third year as the head coach of New Mexico Highlands, and first year you had an amazing turnaround from the 1 win to the 20 wins. Last year you get the team to the NCAA tournament, but there were a lot of guys who graduated from that team. I know Roman and Chop Tang come to mind, so kind of people didn't know what to expect from New Mexico Highlands this year, but it seems like you haven't missed a beat, Coach.
Well, we've been fortunate. We had 2 groups of kids. We had an older group of kids, which was Chris Dunn, who was all conference, Rashad Peterson, Roman Andrade in that group, and then we had some younger kids that have kind of grown up in our system and are playing really, really well now. Mendagas Markovicius, Chris Newsom, Ryan Gonzalez, Derek Freeman. They've been here 3 years, and it was tougher for them. They kind of had to bide their time, but they've grown up in our system. And then you surround them. We get fortunate enough to find a kid like Thomas Manzano, who can really, really score it. So we've been fortunate. We've been very fortunate.
Talking with Joe Harge, the head men's basketball coach at New Mexico Highlands. Coach Thomas Manzano, our Offensive Player of the Week, brought to you by Baden Basketballs. The kid's averaging 23.5 points per game. That's, I believe, 6 or 7 points ahead of even second place. He's a transfer out of the University of Wyoming. How did he wind up playing for the Cowboys this year? I guess the New Mexico Highland Cowboys.
Just lucky, yeah. I guess.
Yeah.
He went from the Wyoming. I guess he likes Cowboys. He went from the Wyoming Cowboys to the New Mexico Highlands Cowboys. We were fortunate, and I think any coach will tell you recruiting is about relationships. And as you build relationships, you get phone calls on guys. And Thomas's resume is very impressive. He was the Jayhawk Player of the Year at Garden City, and he was second-team All-America, and he was all-region and all-everything. So for us to get a kid like that, and sometimes it happens. I think coaches call it on the bounce back. So, he got to Wyoming and got a little disillusioned. He was used to being kind of the guy, and at the Division I level, there's a lot of guys that are used to being the guy. So I think he got a little disillusioned, and fortunately, we got him on the bounce back. So he's been great for us. He's got a great basketball mind. He's a good kid, and he really, really is. Understands the game, so he's been terrific for us. He's been a great leader for us.
We're talking with Joe Harge, the head men's basketball coach at New Mexico Highlands, and he's leading the league in scoring, and New Mexico Highlands is leading the league in scoring, 86.9 points per game. Another guy who's really burst on the scene this year, Momcilo Latinovic leading the league in three-point percentage. I hope I said his name correctly, Coach.
Yeah, Momcilo.
Momcilo.
And we just call him Chilo on the good days. No, he's been really good, and he's a kid. Once again, we found him. He was at Northern State with the great Don Meyer last year, so he'd been coached, and he'd been coached well. And he didn't, he had spent a year in Phoenix, Arizona, and he wanted to get back to the Southwest, and he's a kid that actually kind of recruited us. He saw us in the NCAA regionals, and, I guess he looked and saw we were losing everybody. So he's been really good for us, especially late as he's figured out, started to figure out the league, the last 5-6 games or so. He's been really, really good, and he's doing nothing but getting better.
Talking with Joe Harge, coach of New Mexico Highlands, a couple of huge wins this past weekend against Adams State and Fort Lewis, a couple teams that you were either tied with or chasing in the standings, and now you're ahead of those teams. The latest regional rankings, we're talking to you on a Monday morning, and I haven't seen the latest rankings out just yet. Last week, I believe you had dropped out of the top 10. You got to think you're going to be back in that top 8 after this past weekend.
Well, we would hope. That's something that, the only thing we can control is what we do. It was a big help to us. We beat Fort Lewis, who was number 1 in the region, and then Adams, and I think Adams State was number 7 in the region. And that's got to help us. I think Augustana went from 9 to 4, after they had a big weekend. So hopefully we'll move up. Obviously, our goal is to be in that top 8. And then, we're still trying to battle for the league title, and we've got an outside shot at it. There's 2 teams ahead of us that both have 3 losses. We'll face one of them, in Metro State down the road. But that's to me, that's about a year away. We've got to focus on the game at hand, and we have a very good Mesa team coming in, and then a Western State team this weekend. So we have to handle that before we can look ahead, and things will shake out how they shake out.
Talking with Joe Harge, the New Mexico Highlands Cowboys play, as he mentioned, Mesa State and Western State this upcoming weekend. Coach, Mesa, here's a team that won the regular season championship last year. They've been a little bit up and down this year, but at 10-7, they're right in the mix for the RMAC shootout. And I know you guys have had some pretty good battles with them over the last couple of years.
No, I have to correct you. They haven't been good battles because we haven't come out on top in any of them. They're a nemesis for us. They're a thorn in our side. Since I've been here, we haven't been able to beat Mesa, and they've all been. You're right in the fact that they've all been absolute battles, and they've gone to the wire. And for us, we've just been snake bitten every time. Mikey Dominguez, who was just a great player for them, who's a New Mexico kid, had 2 monster games against us last year and hit a buzzer beater. And it's always kind of been that way with Mesa. So hopefully we can figure them out. But Coach Heaps does a great job. He's got a great program, and he gets kids in that really play hard and fit his system. So it's been tough for us, but hopefully we can figure it out this week.
Well, Coach, we want to thank you for taking some time out, and good luck the rest of the way.
Well, thank you. Anytime. Thank you, and I'm excited about the league and what's going on this year.
All right, sounds good, Coach.
Thanks again.
Thanks. All right, that is Joe Harge, the head men's basketball coach at New Mexico Highlands University. They're currently 12-5 in the RMAC, 16-5 overall, right in the mix for possibly another shot at the NCAA tournament. And for more on what's going to be happening this upcoming weekend, let's head over to Garrett Ratonia at the RMAC Sports Desk.
The race for the RMAC shootout heats up with only 6 games remaining on the schedule. On Friday, Metro State, the second-place squad in the RMAC, will hit the road and try to clip the Eagles of Chadron State. CSC, 3-14 in league play, looks to snap a 12-game losing streak against the Roadrunners, who are 14-3 in the conference. New Mexico Highlands continues their homestand as they host Mesa State. The Cowboys, 12-5, will try to hold back a pesky 10-7 Mavericks team looking to secure their spot in the shootout. Fort Lewis, 11-5 in the RMAC, will attempt to stop the bleeding of a 2-game losing streak as they host a 6-10 CSU Pueblo squad. The Thunderwolves hold that 8th and final shootout spot to themselves right now, with 4 teams nipping at their heels. One of the hottest teams in the RMAC right now is 11-6 Western New Mexico. The Mustangs have won 6 out of 7 and host a 6-11 Western State team looking to crash the party in Pueblo in 3 weeks. At 10-6, Adams State would like a couple more wins to feel good about their postseason placement. That starts Friday as they host UCCS, 5-11 in the league. The Mountain Lions still maintain an outside chance of getting in the conference tournament. Nebraska Kearney sits just a half game back of CSU Pueblo for that final spot at 6-11. The Lopers will try to pick up a crucial win as Lonnie Porter and the 3-14 Regis Rangers come to town. Both teams look to end losing streaks. On Saturday, the top team in the RMAC, Colorado Mines, will look to keep their top spot as they face off with Colorado Christian. The Ore Diggers, 14-3, own a 78-65 victory over the 6-11 Cougars this year. Next, Metro State travels to Kearney to take on the Lopers, and New Mexico Highlands looks to pick up a home win against Western State. Fort Lewis attempts to regain their swagger as they battle UCCS. Mesa State and Western New Mexico clash in a fight for shootout positioning, and Adams State will try to put a dent in the tournament dreams of CSU Pueblo. Finally, Chadron State and Regis shoot it out to keep their slim chances of postseason glory alive. I'm Garrett Ritonia, and this has been your RMAC Men's Basketball Update.
Thank you, Garrett. When we come back, we're going to wrap things up on the RMAC Radio Show.